The cards hit the table with a finality that made Beatrice Jenkins' blood run cold as she stood in the corner of the Red Canyon Saloon in Lewiston, Idaho territory, watching her stepfather throw down his hand with shaking fingers. It was August of 1878, and the summer heat had driven most sensible folk indoors, but the saloon was packed with men seeking whiskey and cards to pass the sweltering evening. Beatrice had been serving drinks for the past 3 hours, her dark hair plastered to her neck with sweat, her modest blue dress sticking to her back. She had watched Harold Jenkins lose hand after hand, his pile of chips dwindling until there was nothing left but desperation in his bloodshot eyes. "I am out of money," Harold said, his voice cracking. He was a weak man. Beatrice had known that since her mother married him 5 years ago, but she had never imagined he would sink this low. The cowboy across from him leaned back in his chair, his weathered face unreadable beneath the shadow of his hat. Beatrice had noticed him earlier in the evening when he had walked in, tall and lean with the kind of quiet confidence that came from a man who knew exactly who he was. His dark brown hair was longer than most, touching his collar, and his clothes, while dusty from travel, were well made. He wore a gun on his hip, but he carried it like a tool rather than a threat. "Then I suppose this game is over," the cowboy said, his voice low and measured. He started to gather his winnings. "Wait," Harold said, desperation making his voice sharp. "One more hand, just one more, and I can win it all back." "With what?" another player asked, a cruel smile on his face. "You have got nothing left, Jenkins." Harold's eyes darted around the room, wild and unfocused, until they landed on Beatrice. Her stomach dropped as she saw the calculation in his expression, the terrible mathematics of a desperate man. "I have her," Harold said, pointing at Beatrice with a trembling finger. "My stepdaughter. She is worth more than everything I have lost tonight." The room went silent. Even the piano player in the corner stopped mid-song. Beatrice felt the world tilt beneath her feet. Her mother had died just 3 months ago from fever, leaving her alone with Harold. She had no other family, nowhere else to go. She was 21 years old and had been taking care of herself and her mother for years while Harold drank and gambled away every cent they had. "You cannot be serious," the cowboy said, his voice hard now, all traces of casualness gone. "I am deadly serious," Harold said, standing up so fast his chair scraped against the wooden floor. "She is young, healthy, a good worker, worth at least $500 if you were buying her contract as a servant. That should more than cover my debts and give me a stake for another hand." Beatrice found her voice, though it came out smaller than she wanted. "You have no right. I am not property to be wagered." Harold whirled on her, his face flushed with alcohol and rage. "You are living under my roof, eating my food. Your mother left you in my care, and I have every legal right to make decisions for you until you are married." It was a twisted interpretation of the law, but Beatrice knew that in this rough territory, with no sheriff present, and no one willing to stand up for an orphaned woman, Harold's word would likely stand. She looked around the saloon, hoping someone would object, but most of the men avoided her eyes. A few looked uncomfortable, but none spoke up. The cowboy studied Harold with an expression that could have curdled milk. Then his gaze shifted to Beatrice, and something in his face softened almost imperceptibly. He looked at her for a long moment, and she found herself unable to look away from his gray eyes. "This is the lowest thing I have ever seen a man do," the cowboy said finally. "But I will agree to this hand on one condition. If I win, she comes with me, but as a free woman with choices, not as property. I will offer her employment or passage to wherever she wants to go. If you win, Jenkins, you get double your money back and she stays with you." Harold's eyes lit up with greed. "Deal," he said quickly before anyone could reconsider. The cowboy looked at Beatrice again. "Do you understand what I am offering? If I win this hand, you will be free of him. I will give you options. You have my word." Beatrice did not know this man, had no reason to trust him beyond the steady look in his eyes, and the fact that he had at least tried to give her some dignity in this horrible situation. But she knew Harold, knew that every day with him would be worse than the last. She nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. The dealer, an older man with a drooping mustache who looked deeply uncomfortable with the whole situation, shuffled the cards. The saloon remained silent except for the whisper of the cards being dealt. Beatrice watched, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. Harold picked up his cards with shaking hands. The cowboy's face remained impassive as he studied his hand. Other players had folded, unwilling to be part of this particular pot. It was just the two of them now. Harold bet wildly, pushing imaginary chips forward. The cowboy matched him without hesitation. When it came time to reveal their hands, Harold laid down 3 tens with a triumphant cry that died in his throat when the cowboy calmly placed a full house on the table, kings over 7s. "No," Harold whispered, then louder. "No, another hand. Best 2 out of 3. The cowboy stood, his chair scraping back. He was taller than Beatrice had realized, at least 6 feet, with broad shoulders and work-roughened hands. "The bet is settled," he said firmly. "You lost. Be grateful I am not calling you out for what you just tried to do." Harold lurched forward, but 2 other men grabbed his arms, holding him back. The bartender, a burly man named Pete, came around from behind the bar. "Jenkins, you made your bet in front of witnesses," Pete said. "The deal is done. You best leave before you make this worse for yourself." Harold struggled for a moment, then seemed to deflate. He looked at Beatrice with something that might have been shame if he had been capable of it, then turned and stumbled toward the door, pushing through it into the night. Beatrice stood frozen, unsure what to do or say. The cowboy approached her slowly, as if afraid of startling a spooked horse. "My name is William Foster," he said, removing his hat. "And I meant what I said. You have choices now. I own a ranch about a day's ride north of here, up in the Camas Prairie. I could use help with the house and cooking if you are willing to work for fair wages. Or if you have family elsewhere, I will pay for your stage fare to get there. Or if you want to stay in Lewiston, I will stake you to a room at the boarding house for a month while you find work. The choice is yours." Beatrice stared at him, trying to process everything that had happened in the last 10 minutes. Her whole life had changed on the turn of a card. She was free of Harold, but now dependent on the charity of a complete stranger. "Why?" she asked. "Why did you do that? You could have just walked away." William looked at her with those steady gray eyes. "Because what he was doing was wrong and I had the means to stop it. I have a sister back in Kansas. If someone had not helped her when she needed it, she would not be alive today. Sometimes we help people because it is the right thing to do." "I have nowhere else to go," Beatrice admitted, hating how small her voice sounded. "No family. Harold was all I had after my mother died." "Then come work at the ranch," William said. "I promise you will be treated with respect. You will have your own room, fair wages, and if you decide to leave, you will have earned enough to make a new start." What choice did she really have? The boarding house would only last a month, and then what? At least at the ranch she would have work and a place to stay. And despite everything, despite the circumstances, there was something about William Foster that made her want to trust him. "I accept your offer," she said. "When do we leave?" "We can stay in town tonight, leave at first light," William said. "I will get you a room at the hotel." "Do you have belongings to collect?" "Just a few things at Harold's house," Beatrice said. The thought of going back there made her skin crawl. "I will go with you," William said. Gather what is yours, he will not trouble you again." They walked through the darkened streets of Lewiston, the August night still warm despite the late hour. Harold's house was a small, shabby affair on the edge of town. Beatrice was relieved to find it empty. She gathered her few possessions, her mother's Bible, 2 changes of clothes, and a cameo brooch that had belonged to her grandmother. Everything she owned fit in a single carpet bag. William waited by the door, giving her privacy but staying close enough that she felt safe. When she emerged with her bag, he took it from her without a word and they walked back toward the center of town. The hotel was nicer than anywhere Beatrice had stayed in years. William paid for 2 rooms without comment, then handed her the key to hers. "Get some rest," he said. "We have a long ride tomorrow. I will meet you in the lobby at dawn." Beatrice climbed the stairs to her room, her legs feeling like they might give out at any moment. Once inside, she sat on the bed, still trying to process everything. She had been sold like livestock, won by a stranger in a card game, and was now about to ride off to an unknown ranch with a man she had just met. It should have terrified her, but strangely, she felt calmer than she had in months. Harold was gone from her life. Whatever came next had to be better than what she was leaving behind. She lay down on the clean sheets, still wearing her dress, and fell into an exhausted sleep. Dawn came too quickly. Beatrice washed her face in the basin, changed into her other dress, a simple brown cotton that was practical for travel, and braided her long dark hair. When she came down to the lobby, William was already there, looking like he had been awake for hours. He wore a clean shirt and had clearly shaved, making him look younger. She realized he was probably not much past 30. "Did you sleep?" he asked. "Some," Beatrice said. "You? Enough," he replied with a small smile that transformed his usually serious face. "Are you hungry? We should eat before we head out." They had breakfast at a small restaurant near the hotel. Beatrice was too nervous to eat much, but William insisted she try, saying it would be hours before they stopped again. She managed some eggs and toast, washing it down with strong coffee. "Tell me about the ranch," Beatrice said, wanting to break the awkward silence. William set down his cup. "It is not fancy, but it is good land. I have about 300 acres, run about 200 head of cattle. There is a main house, a barn, a bunkhouse for the hands. Right now I have 3 men who work for me permanently, and I hire on extras during roundup and drives. The house needs a woman's touch. I have been making do on my own for too long, and my cooking would shame a bad restaurant." Despite herself, Beatrice smiled. "I can cook. My mother taught me, and I have been running households since I was 16. "That is more than I could hope for," William said. "I will pay you $30 a month plus room and board. That is fair wages for a housekeeper in these parts, maybe even generous." It was generous. Most housekeepers made $20 if they were lucky. Beatrice felt some of the tension ease from her shoulders. This was a business arrangement, clear and straightforward. After breakfast, William led her to the livery where he had stabled his horse, a sturdy black gelding named Ranger. He also rented a gentle mare for Beatrice, explaining that it was too far to make her ride in a wagon. She had ridden before, though not in years, but the mare was calm and easy to handle. They set out as the sun was climbing higher, turning the August morning from pleasant to hot. Lewiston fell away behind them as they rode north, following the Clearwater River before branching off toward the prairie lands. The landscape was beautiful in a harsh, unforgiving way, rolling hills covered in grass and sagebrush, with mountains rising in the distance. William was not much of a talker, but the silence between them was not uncomfortable. He pointed out landmarks as they rode, a distinctive rock formation, a bend in the creek where the fishing was good, the distant smoke from another ranch. Beatrice found herself watching him, studying the easy way he sat in the saddle, the way his eyes constantly scanned the horizon, always alert. They stopped at midday to rest the horses and eat some jerky and hardtack that William had brought. Beatrice sat in the shade of a cottonwood tree, grateful for the break from the sun. "Can I ask you something?" she said. William nodded, chewing his jerky. "Last night you said you have a sister. Is she still in Kansas?" "She is," William said. "Married to a good man, has 3 children now. I have not seen her in 5 years, but we write letters. She is the reason I came out here, actually. After I helped her leave a bad situation, I realized I needed to start fresh too. I had some money saved, heard about land opening up in Idaho territory. Seemed like as good a place as any to build something. Do you miss her?" "Every day," William said, and there was genuine warmth in his voice. "But she is happy, and that is what matters. Maybe someday I will get back there for a visit, or she will come out here. For now, letters are enough." They rode on through the afternoon, and as the sun started to dip toward the horizon, the ranch came into view. It was situated in a valley with good grassland and a creek running through it. The house was a solid wood structure, 2 stories, with a wide porch. The barn and other outbuildings looked well maintained. It was not grand, but it was honest and real, carved out of the wilderness through hard work. 3 men came out of the bunkhouse as they approached. William raised a hand in greeting. "Boss, we were not expecting you back so soon," one of them called out. He was young, probably early 20s, with red hair and a friendly face. "Change of plans," William said, dismounting. He helped Beatrice down from her mare, his hands steady and respectful. "This is Miss Beatrice Jenkins. She is going to be our new housekeeper. Miss Jenkins, this is Charlie Reed, Tom Walton, and Jack Sullivan." The 3 men touched their hats politely. Charlie, the redhead, smiled. Tom, older with graying hair, nodded seriously. Jack, dark-haired and quiet, just studied her with curiosity. "Nice to meet you, miss," Charlie said. "Lord knows this place could use a woman's touch. The boss here cannot cook worth a damn, begging your pardon, boss." William shook his head with amusement. "Get the horses settled, will you? Miss Jenkins and I will get her situated in the house." He picked up her carpet bag and led her toward the house. Inside, it was clean but sparse, clearly the domain of a man living alone. The front room had a fireplace, a few chairs, and not much else. The kitchen was functional but disorganized. Upstairs, there were 4 bedrooms. "This one can be yours," William said, opening the door to a corner room. It had a bed, a dresser, a washstand, and a window that looked out over the valley. "It is not much, but it is private and yours." "It is more than I expected," Beatrice said honestly. "Thank you." William set down her bag. "I will let you settle in. Come down when you are ready. No pressure to start work tonight. You have had a long couple of days." After he left, Beatrice sat on the bed and looked around her new room. It was clean and simple, and it was hers. For the first time since her mother had died, she felt like she could breathe. She unpacked her few belongings, placing her mother's Bible on the dresser and pinning the cameo brooch to her dress. Then she washed her face and hands and went downstairs. William was in the kitchen, looking helplessly at a pot and some vegetables. "Can I help?" Beatrice asked. He turned, looking relieved. "I was going to attempt stew, but I have a feeling it would turn out like the last 3 times I tried, which is to say, barely edible." Beatrice laughed, the first real laugh she had managed in months. "Step aside. Let me see what you have." She found potatoes, carrots, onions, some salt pork, and various spices. It was enough. As she worked, William sat at the table and watched, occasionally answering her questions about where things were kept. "You really cannot cook, can you?" she asked, amused. "I can make coffee and fry meat," William said with a self-deprecating smile. "Beyond that, I am useless." My mother tried to teach me, but I never had the patience for it. Sarah, my sister, she was always better at domestic things. And you preferred being outside. Always, William confirmed. Give me a horse and open country and I am happy. Put me in a kitchen and I am lost. They talked as Beatrice cooked, easy conversation that flowed naturally. William told her about the ranch, his plans to expand the herd, the challenges of the Idaho winters. Beatrice found herself telling him about her mother, how they had struggled after her father died when she was 12, how Harold had seemed like a good man at first but had shown his true colors soon after the wedding. When the stew was ready, William called in the ranch hands. They all ate together at the large kitchen table, and Beatrice was pleased to see the men's faces light up at the first taste of real cooking. "Miss Jenkins, if the boss ever stops appreciating you, I will hire you myself," Charlie said around a mouthful of stew. "You cannot afford her," William said, but he was smiling. After dinner, the hands returned to the bunkhouse, and Beatrice cleaned up the kitchen while William sat at the table, doing accounts in a leather ledger. It felt strangely domestic, comfortable in a way she had not expected. "I should turn in," Beatrice said when the last dish was dried and put away. "Tomorrow I will get a better sense of what needs doing around here." William looked up from his ledger. "Beatrice, I want you to know you are safe here. The men are good people, and I will make sure they treat you with respect. If anyone makes you uncomfortable, you tell me immediately." "I will," she said. "Thank you, William, for everything." She went upstairs to her room and changed into her nightgown, then lay in bed listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the ranch. Cattle lowing in the distance, the wind through the grass, the creak of the house settling. It was so different from town, from the noise and closeness of Lewiston. She thought she might have trouble sleeping, but exhaustion pulled her under quickly. The next weeks fell into a rhythm. Beatrice woke early, made breakfast for William and the hands, then spent her days cleaning, cooking, and organizing the house. She discovered that William had been telling the truth about the place needing a woman's touch. The curtains were threadbare, the pantry was a disaster, and dust had accumulated in corners that had probably not seen a broom in years. But she found satisfaction in the work. She made lists of supplies they needed, which William approved without question. She sewed new curtains from fabric she found in town on one of their weekly supply runs. She organized the kitchen so it made sense, planted a small herb garden near the back door, and even convinced William to let her paint the shutters a fresh green. William was an easy man to work for. He was respectful, never demanding, and genuinely grateful for everything she did. He paid her promptly on the first of each month, counting out the bills into her hand. She saved every penny, tucking them into a small tin box she kept hidden in her dresser. It was her freedom money, her safety net. But as the weeks turned into months, something shifted. Beatrice found herself looking forward to the evenings when William would come in from work, dusty and tired, and sit at the kitchen table while she cooked dinner. They would talk about everything and nothing, his plans for the ranch, her ideas for improving the house, stories from their pasts. She learned that he was 28, that he had grown up on a farm in Kansas, that he had left home at 19 to make his own way. She learned that he loved horses more than people, that he had a dry sense of humor that caught her off guard, that he was unfailingly kind to everyone he met. And she noticed things about him that had nothing to do with him being her employer. The way his eyes crinkled when he really smiled, the strength in his hands as he worked, the patient way he dealt with difficult situations, how he always made sure she had eaten before he did, how he noticed when she was tired and insisted she rest. It scared her, these feelings. She was dependent on him for everything, her livelihood, her home. It would be foolish to develop romantic notions about her employer, but her heart did not seem to care about logic. September gave way to October, and the weather started to cool. The ranch was busy with preparations for winter. They brought the cattle down from the high pastures, repaired fences, laid in supplies. Beatrice spent her days canning vegetables, preserving meat, and making sure the house would be warm and well stocked when the snow came. One evening in late October, William came in earlier than usual. Beatrice was in the kitchen, up to her elbows in bread dough. "You are back early," she said. "Is everything all right?" "Fine," William said. He seemed nervous, which was unlike him. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about something." Beatrice's stomach dropped. Was he unhappy with her work? Had she done something wrong? She wiped her hands on her apron and turned to face him. "There is a dance in town this Saturday," William said. "The harvest celebration. I was wondering if you would like to go with me." Beatrice stared at him, her mind going blank. "As your employee?" "No," William said, meeting her eyes. "As my guest, if you want to. You do not have to." "I know I am your employer and that makes things complicated, but I have been wanting to ask you for weeks now." Her heart was pounding. "Why?" William took a step closer. "Because I enjoy your company. Because you make this house feel like a home. Because when I ride in at the end of the day, seeing you in the kitchen is the best part. Because I think you are remarkable, and I would very much like to take you to a dance." Beatrice felt her cheeks flush. "The men in town, they will talk. They will remember how I came here." "Let them talk," William said firmly. "Anyone who knows anything knows you are here by choice, working an honest job, and anyone who says different will answer to me." She should say no. This was her employer, the man who had won her in a card game. But when she looked at him, she did not see her employer. She saw the man who had given her choices when she had none. The man who treated her with respect and kindness every single day. The man whose smile made her day brighter. "I would like that," she said softly. "I would like to go to the dance with you." William's face broke into a wide smile. "Really? Really?" Beatrice confirmed and found herself smiling back. Saturday came, and Beatrice spent far too much time getting ready. She had one good dress, a deep blue that had been her mother's, which she had altered to fit her. She pinned her hair up carefully, allowing a few curls to frame her face. When she came downstairs, William was waiting in his Sunday best, and the look on his face made her glad she had taken the time. "You look beautiful," he said simply. "You clean up pretty well yourself," Beatrice replied, and they both laughed, the nervousness breaking. The ride into Lewiston was pleasant, the autumn air crisp and clean. They talked easily, as they always did, but there was something different now, an awareness between them that had not been there before, or perhaps had been there all along but unacknowledged. The dance was being held in the same saloon where William had won that fateful card game 3 months ago. Beatrice hesitated at the door, the memories flooding back. William took her hand, the first time he had touched her beyond helping her on and off horses. "We can leave if this is too uncomfortable. We can go somewhere else." Beatrice squeezed his hand. "No. I am not going to let Harold and that night have power over me anymore. Let us go in." The saloon had been transformed. Tables were pushed back, the floor cleared for dancing. A small band was playing fiddle and guitar. People milled about, talking and laughing. Several heads turned when William and Beatrice entered, and she heard the whispers start. She lifted her chin and walked in on William's arm. Charlie and the other ranch hands were there, and they greeted Beatrice warmly. Tom's wife, Martha, whom Beatrice had met a few times, came over and complimented her dress. Slowly, the stares and whispers faded as people turned back to their own conversations. William led her onto the dance floor. She had not danced in years, but he was patient, guiding her through the steps. They danced 3 songs before taking a break, and Beatrice was laughing, breathless and happy. They got punch and stood on the sidelines, watching the other dancers. That was when Harold appeared. He looked worse than the last time Beatrice had seen him, thinner, more haggard. He approached them with unsteady steps. "Beatrice," he said, his voice slurred, "I need to talk to you." William stepped in front of her. "You have nothing to say that she needs to hear." "She is my stepdaughter," Harold insisted. "I have rights." "You lost any rights when you wagered her like she was livestock," William said, his voice cold as ice. "Walk away, Jenkins, before this gets ugly." Harold's face twisted with anger. "You think you are better than me. You are just a cowboy. She was living in my house under my care." "She was supporting you while you drank yourself to death," William said. "Everyone in this town knows it. Now get out of here." Several men had gathered around, ready to intervene if necessary. Pete, the bartender, came over and took Harold's arm. "Come on, Jenkins. Time for you to go." Harold allowed himself to be led away, but he shot one last venomous look at Beatrice. "You will regret this, both of you." Beatrice was shaking. William turned to her, his anger fading to concern. "Are you all right?" "Yes," she said, though her voice trembled. "I just need some air." They stepped outside into the cool October night. Beatrice took deep breaths, trying to calm herself. "I am sorry," William said. "I should have anticipated that he might be here." "It is not your fault," Beatrice said. "I knew I might see him eventually. I just was not prepared for how much I still hate him for what he did." William took her hands in his grip warm and steady. "He cannot hurt you anymore. I will not let him." Beatrice looked up at him, at the fierce protectiveness in his eyes, and something inside her broke open. "William, I need to tell you something. These past months working at the ranch, getting to know you, I have developed feelings that are not appropriate for an employer and employee." "Beatrice," William said softly. "Please let me finish," she said. "I know the circumstances of how we met were terrible. I know you were just trying to help me. But somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing you as my employer and started seeing you as someone I care about deeply. And I do not know what to do about that, because I do not want to lose my position, but I also cannot keep pretending I do not feel this way." William's hands tightened on hers. "You will not lose your position, but can I tell you something? I did not bring you to the ranch just to be charitable. I mean, at first, yes, I wanted to help you get away from Jenkins. But from the moment I saw you in that saloon, there was something about you. Your strength, your dignity in the face of that horrible situation. I have been halfway in love with you since that first night, and every day since has just made it deeper." Beatrice felt tears prick her eyes. "Truly, truly," William said. He reached up and gently wiped a tear from her cheek. "I know the circumstances were not ideal. I know we started in the worst possible way. But what I feel for you has nothing to do with that card game and everything to do with who you are. You are smart and funny and kind. You make my house a home. You make me want to be better than I am. I am in love with you, Beatrice Jenkins." "I love you too," Beatrice whispered. "I was so afraid to admit it." William smiled, that rare, full smile that transformed his face. "Can I kiss you, please?" Beatrice said. He kissed her gently, sweetly, there in the darkness outside the saloon. Beatrice felt like she was floating. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. "So what happens now?" Beatrice asked. "Now we go back inside and dance some more," William said. "And tomorrow we figure out the rest, together." They danced until late, and when William took her home, he kissed her again on the porch before saying good night. Beatrice went to bed happier than she could ever remember being. The next morning, William knocked on the kitchen door before breakfast, which he never did. Beatrice opened it to find him looking nervous again. "I have been thinking all night," he said without preamble. "About us, about the situation. And I have an idea, but you have to promise to tell me honestly if you do not like it." "All right," Beatrice said, curious. "Marry me," William said. "I know it is fast. I know we have only known each other 3 months. But I love you and I want to build a life with you, not as employer and employee, but as partners. Equal partners in this ranch and in life. If you say yes, this becomes our ranch, not just mine. Everything I have becomes ours. And if you say no, nothing changes. You still have your job, your room, your wages. No pressure. But I had to ask because I cannot imagine my future without you in it." Beatrice stared at him, her mind racing. It was fast. It was crazy. 3 months ago, she had not even known this man existed. But she thought about the months they had spent together, the conversations, the quiet moments, the laughter. She thought about how safe she felt with him, how respected, how cherished. She thought about how her heart lifted every time she saw him, how right it felt when he held her. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I will marry you." William let out a whoop of joy and picked her up, spinning her around. Beatrice laughed, holding on tight. When he set her down, he kissed her soundly. "When?" he asked. "Soon," Beatrice said. "I do not need a big wedding. Just something simple with the people we care about." 2 weeks, William suggested. "That will give us time to arrange things, get the preacher, invite people." 2 weeks is perfect, Beatrice agreed. The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind. Martha Walton helped Beatrice alter her mother's wedding dress, a simple white gown with lace sleeves. William and the ranch hands cleaned the barn and decorated it with fall flowers and ribbons. Invitations were sent to nearby ranches and to friends in town. William sent a telegram to his sister in Kansas, knowing she could not make it in time but wanting her to know. On a crisp November morning, Beatrice married William Foster in the barn of their ranch. The preacher from Lewiston performed the ceremony. Charlie, Tom, and Jack stood up for William. Martha stood up for Beatrice. About 30 people from nearby ranches and town attended, bringing food and well wishes. Beatrice wore her mother's dress and the cameo brooch. William wore his best suit and could not stop smiling. When the preacher pronounced them husband and wife, William kissed Beatrice to cheers and applause. They celebrated with a meal and dancing in the barn. It was simple and perfect. As the sun set, William and Beatrice stood on the porch of their house, watching their guests depart, his arm around her waist. "Happy?" he asked. "Happier than I have ever been," Beatrice said honestly. "When I think about where I was 3 months ago, what my life was like, it feels like a different lifetime." "You saved yourself," William said. "I just gave you the opportunity." "We saved each other," Beatrice corrected. "You said your house needed a woman's touch." "I think maybe you needed someone to come home to." "I definitely needed that," William agreed. He turned her to face him. "I promise you, Beatrice, I will spend every day trying to make you happy." "Just love me," Beatrice said. "That is all I need." "That is the easiest promise I have ever made," William said and kissed her. That night in their bedroom, they became husband and wife in every sense. William was gentle and patient, making sure Beatrice felt safe and loved. Afterward, they lay in bed together, Beatrice's head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "I never thought I could be this happy," she whispered. "Neither did I," William admitted. "I thought I would just work this ranch alone, maybe eventually find someone practical to marry. I never expected to fall in love." "Life is strange," Beatrice said. "The worst night of my life led to the best thing that ever happened to me." "I will make sure you never regret it," William promised. Life on the ranch settled into a new rhythm. Beatrice was no longer the housekeeper but the lady of the house, William's partner in every way. She still cooked and kept house, but she also started keeping the ranch books, since she was better with numbers than William. She learned about the cattle business, went on rides with William to check the herd, and gave her opinions on ranch decisions, which William valued highly. The winter was harsh, but the ranch was well prepared. They spent long evenings by the fire, reading aloud to each other, making plans for the spring. William taught Beatrice to play chess, and she beat him more often than not, which he pretended to be annoyed about but was secretly proud of. In January, Beatrice realized she was pregnant. She told William on a snowy evening, nervous about his reaction. He was overjoyed, kissing her, and then immediately worrying about whether she should be doing less work, if she was feeling all right, if they should get the doctor out from town. "William, women have babies all the time," Beatrice said, laughing at his concern. "I am fine, I will be fine." "I know," William said, "but you are my wife and that is my child and I am allowed to worry." The pregnancy progressed smoothly. Beatrice continued her work around the ranch, though William and the hands insisted on doing any heavy lifting. Martha Walton became a good friend, sharing advice and hand-me-down baby clothes from her own 3 children. In September of 1879, exactly 1 year after that fateful card game, Beatrice gave birth to a healthy baby boy. They named him Thomas William Foster, after William's father and William himself. He had dark hair like his mother and his father's gray eyes. William was besotted with his son. Beatrice would find him in the nursery at all hours, just watching the baby sleep. He carved a small wooden horse for Thomas, even though the baby was too young to play with it, and declared he would teach his son to ride as soon as he could walk. The ranch prospered. Word spread that William Foster treated his workers fairly and ran an honest operation, and he had no trouble hiring good hands. They expanded the herd, bought more land, and built a new, larger barn. William credited Beatrice with much of their success, saying her organizational skills and head for numbers had made all the difference. In the spring of 1881, Beatrice gave birth to their second child, a daughter they named Sarah Martha Foster, after William's sister and Beatrice's friend. She had her mother's dark hair and a sunny disposition that charmed everyone. Life was good. The ranch was successful, their children were healthy, and they were deeply in love. Sometimes Beatrice would think about that night in the saloon, about how terrified she had been, and marvel at how everything had turned out. One evening, when Thomas was 3 and Sarah was 1, they sat on the porch watching the sunset. The children were in bed, and it was just the 2 of them enjoying the peace. "You ever think about Harold?" William asked. It was a question he had never asked before. "Not often," Beatrice said honestly. "I heard he died last winter, froze to death drunk in an alley. I should probably feel something about that, but I do not. He made his choices." "And you made yours," William said. "I chose you," Beatrice said, taking his hand. "Best choice I ever made." "I would argue that I am the one who got the better end of that deal," William said with a smile. "We both won," Beatrice said. "That is the beauty of it." As the years passed, the Foster Ranch became one of the most successful in the region. Thomas and Sarah grew up strong and healthy, joined eventually by 2 more siblings, another boy named Henry and a girl named Catherine. The house was always full of noise and laughter and love. William and Beatrice grew old together, their love deepening with each passing year. They faced hard times, droughts and harsh winters and the challenges of raising 4 children, but they faced them together as partners. On their 25th wedding anniversary, William surprised Beatrice with a trip back to Lewiston. They stood outside the saloon where they had met, which had been converted into a general store. 25 years ago, I walked into that building and played the most important card game of my life," William said. "You won more than you bargained for," Beatrice teased. "I won everything," William said seriously. "My wife, my family, my life. All because of one night and one decision to do the right thing." "We have been lucky," Beatrice said. "We have been blessed," William corrected. "And I would do it all again, every moment, every choice, as long as it led me back to you." Beatrice kissed him, not caring that they were on a public street. After 25 years, she still loved this man with her whole heart. They returned to the ranch, to their children and their life. Thomas had married a local girl and was running the day-to-day operations of the ranch. Sarah had surprised everyone by becoming a teacher in Lewiston. Henry was apprenticing with the town blacksmith, and Catherine, their youngest at 14, was already showing signs of being as good with horses as her father. William and Beatrice moved into a smaller house they built on the property, leaving the main house to Thomas and his growing family. They spent their days enjoying their grandchildren, going on long rides, and simply being together. As they entered their later years, Beatrice sometimes marveled at the life they had built from such a terrible beginning. She had been sold like property, won in a card game, with no hope and no future. And now she had everything she could have dreamed of and more. One autumn evening, when they were both in their 60s, they sat on the porch of their small house, bundled in blankets against the chill, watching the sunset over the prairie. "You remember the first thing you said to me?" Beatrice asked. William thought for a moment. "I told you my name and that you had choices. You gave me choices when I had none," Beatrice said. "You gave me freedom and respect and love. You gave me a life. You gave me a reason for living," William replied. "Before you, this ranch was just work, just something to do. You made it a home. You made it matter." "We are a good team," Beatrice said. "The best," William agreed. They sat in comfortable silence, holding hands, watching the sun paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson. In the distance, they could see Thomas working in the barn, could hear the laughter of their grandchildren playing in the yard. "No regrets?" William asked. "Not a single one," Beatrice said. "Except maybe that we cannot do it all over again." "Who says we cannot?" William said with a grin. "We have got plenty of time left to make new memories." And they did. They traveled to Kansas to finally meet William's sister in person, a reunion that involved much crying and laughter. They took their grandchildren on camping trips and taught them about the land. They watched their children succeed and supported them through failures. William lived to be 73, passing peacefully in his sleep with Beatrice holding his hand. At his funeral, attended by what seemed like half the territory, Beatrice stood strong, surrounded by her children and grandchildren, and spoke of a man who had been good and kind and true, who had given her choices when she had none, and who had loved her faithfully for over 40 years. Beatrice lived another 5 years after William, spending her time with her family and writing down the story of her life so that her grandchildren would know where they came from. She wrote about the terrible night she was sold, about the cowboy who won the hand and gave her choices, about building a life and a love that sustained her through everything. She passed away on a spring morning in 1919, surrounded by her children and grandchildren, at the age of 82. Her last words were about William, saying she was ready to go home to him. The Foster Ranch continued for generations, a testament to what two people could build together when they chose love and partnership. And the story of William and Beatrice, of how they found each other in the worst of circumstances and created the best of lives, was passed down through the family, a reminder that sometimes the darkest moments can lead to the brightest futures, that choices matter, and that love, real love, can transform everything. In the family Bible, kept in a place of honor in the main house, was written in Beatrice's own hand on the day of her wedding. November 6, 1878, the day my life truly began. William Foster gave me choices and I chose love, best decision I ever made. And beneath it, in William's handwriting, I chose her too, second best decision of my life. The first was walking into that saloon and deciding to do the right thing. Everything good came from that moment. Their great-great-grandchildren would read those words and know that their family was built on a foundation of respect, choice, and enduring love, forged in the Wild West between a cowboy who did what was right and a woman who had the courage to choose her own destiny.